Why did nobody warn me about the countdown?
No.
I thought it
Change
was pretty
things all
cool.
the time. Changing it up.
Surprise countdown!
Well,
Welcome.
here we
Welcome.
are, and happy to have you here with us, Sam.
What's up?
I'm gonna hop off for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Well, I'll go ahead and kind of open up for us. Today, we will be discussing giving your clients gifts, and definitely not the gifts that we mean as far as physical gifts. We mean gifts as an approach in coaching. And we're going to go over each one of those letters in that acronym. So that way you guys can kind of understand a little bit better about what gifts actually means. And we should go ahead.
Kind of a fun theme. I love
It is. It's really straightforward, but powerful, I think, if used properly.
So we're not giving our clients actual gifts then.
We're not gifting our clients. We already had a previous live stream on how that can be
Thank you.
dangerous. So we're not giving them literal gifts.
But Christmas
Aside
is coming.
from the coaching, the coaching is a great gift to give. So, I think if Brooke is ready to go, I think we should start.
Let's start with
just
G.
open up.
Shall we?
Let's open up with the first letter, which is goal.
Straightforward here.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of. And this is always something we want to talk about moving into the new year, right? This is the time that people start to think about things like that. But G in gift in our acronym stands for generate goal. And what could we as coaches do in this space to help our clients? What tools, what questions, what things could be used within here?
I was just going to say, ask the client, what's your goal?
And once you get started with the Go Learn model, you pretty much figure out what it is that they want to accomplish, and you ask your questions around that. And there's no one set rule or one set of questions that you ask for clients that might have financial goals, client that might have relationship goals. You have to be in flow with the conversation to really figure out what those right questions are.
You just touched on a subject that is sort of off topic quickly here, though. But it's one of those things that we do harp on niching and things of that nature. But the reality is, in a real life coaching situation, are you always coaching within your niche?
Wait, is that a question for me?
It's sure, anybody.
For anybody? Oh, anybody want to get on that? That is a great question.
I think
as much as you want or try to keep it within your niche, everything overlaps with each other, and pretty much a person, if you're coaching someone just on, let's say, financial goals, their personal goals, their family goals, their spiritual and wellness goals are going to get all mixed up in there sometimes, and it's almost unavoidable, and you're probably shooting yourself in the foot trying to stop that from happening.
Right.
I think in this space it's important to ask. We already mentioned that, but ask again and ask again, because we do want to clarify those goals. Just kind of like what Anthony said, the niche kind of gets them in the door. But once you ask, usually what they come in for typically isn't really what they're going to end up working on. So asking again is a really good way to digging deeper and getting to what their actual goals are.
Yeah.
Sue says hi, Sam, by the way.
What's up, Sue?
She didn't say hi, Sam. She said, Sam.
Okay, we will count that as hi.
Sam is one of our facilitators in training, and he's awesome.
Think about
thank you, Brooke.
The gift, the G, the goal that we're talking about, but living in the goal of the moment, not just thinking about it as a future direction, but in that moment. How can you be living your goal now so that you're really working in that space of owning how you want to operate, how you want to continue, how you want to grow?
So if I have a goal, I'll tell you how I cannot be living in it. And that's easily done. That's, the sweeping it under the rug, the putting it on the back burner, the making every little minutia thing more important than the thing I actually want to accomplish. And then the next thing you know, a year's gone by and you have not reached your goal, and oh no, and life gets in the way. That's just the nature of life, that it gets in the way. So you have to structure life to reach your goals and to make it a priority. And so that means making it a priority, making the time for it, finding that focus, finding that, and making it more important than life, I guess you could say.
Or if you're going to do something, at least make sure that the little actions and the little steps that you're taking complement what it is that you're going for. Because a lot of people like to set goals in the name of setting goals that have absolutely nothing to do with what they're trying to do. So a year later, they're like, but I've done all this stuff.
What's an example?
This is a really good one. I've constantly heard in the world that I was in prior to becoming a coach where people said things like leaders are readers. And I am just going to go ahead and say there's nothing wrong with reading books. I love reading books. But when you are prioritizing reading a book because your mentor said you have to read a book every single day, but you're not doing anything sustainable for your actual business, not to mention you're not even implementing the things that you're reading in the book, then sure, you're checking things off the list for the sake of checking things off, but they're not materializing into things that matter.
So I think this might dovetail into our I in gifting, which is intent, introspect ideas, intent, resources, obstacles. So what this is in this space, this is there are questions you can ask in this space, but this is sort of knowing the why. That one time a coach asked a why. What is the emotional relevance of this goal? What is my intention in setting it, etc. Thoughts in the gifting, the I.
Intention, I think, is a big piece of what your awareness is. Mine, is what is your intention gives you some motivation to stay motivated towards the G of your gift, the goal. So I think it's important to know what your intention is.
Well, I think that goes to what Sam was saying, right? Sam was saying that you can read books and you can, but if you're not implementing these things, if you don't know what the intention behind I'm reading this book with this intention because I intend to use it in this way, treat it like a tool. And not all, I mean, of course you can read for leisure, but if you're reading with a purpose, you should apply that purpose, right? That's sort of, I think, what Sam was saying.
Right.
Even if your purpose is pleasure. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the intention is the first step towards making goals much more concrete than most New Year's resolutions we see.
Yeah, well, New Year's resolutions fail. 92% of them fail. So
we did arrive on that last year.
It's just sad. What else? So in this I section, we say introspect. That's the intention. That like, why am I doing this? Within it also though is intending how to use your resources, sort of knowing what your obstacles are. So if I'm a client, I have a goal and I want to explore those kind of spaces. What can you as a coach ask me or put forward to assist me in exploring that kind of space?
How will it serve you? What will assist you in that discovery?
So if my goal, I'm going to say that my goal is to, we'll just go with this, invest X amount of money in X thing by a certain amount of time, right? So, so I would like to explore, what I have to do that. And what would you ask as a coach? That's my goal in this session.
I would start with, what are you doing now?
Not. Well, no. Now we'll put a little bit away here and there, but it's not like a plan that has action or is set. There's not a set amount or anything like that. Which might be good. Might be good to do.
What are you saving for? Is this something short term, long term?
Both. See right there, though. That's interesting. That's a good point, though. That's a very good point. Is knowing that intention. What is the intention of saving? What is the intention of investing? What is it? That is a very good point. Good question.
Yeah. What's the positive and negative consequences of doing it and not doing it?
Asking how you feel when you achieve this goal, I think is important in setting that intent as well.
I have one question. Now, this is, of course, because, one of the tools we used, SWOT, like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, obstacles. If you say positive, negative, things like that, is that okay as a coach?
Well, as long as it's a double-edged sword, because as long as you're not putting your definition on what's positive versus negative and letting the client define that for themselves, I feel that's 100% fair. But if you just say that this is the negative consequence, you're now putting yourself into your client's story versus letting them craft that around insert goal here.
I'm going to be total devil's advocate here, Sam. And I'm not saying that your question was bad or inappropriate or anything, but totally being a devil's advocate. Even the word positive and negative in my head went like bing a little bit for me, because it's not a way I view the world, kind of. And so that which is totally fair, right? You don't know my vocabulary, you don't know these things, totally fair. And if you had known your client, you probably would have chosen something else. But immediately I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about the positives and negatives. Like, I just want to talk about like what could happen, and I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but like I don't really believe in good or bad. So so that was it's funny. It was one of those instances when as a coach, even just something as small as that can be leading in some way, or feel like it for the client, which is
For
interesting.
sure.
Yeah. It's not something I expected to come up, but it just came up for me, and I thought I'd share.
But that's also building the rapport and finding out what works with our clients. And right now, Brooke said, well, what I would ask myself is what could happen? That's what I would be more.
Yeah.
So then that's when we thought, well, what could happen?
And it's more open-ended. Now, mind you, though, I have worked with people that needed that. This is worst case scenario, best case scenario, and they had to explore it. And that was important. So again, I guess it really depends person to person, situation to situation. But I'm like, in this particular situation, I don't know if anything. I don't know.
I like that. I totally like that.
Hopefully, your client helps you out there a little bit with a response that
of course,
helps you get back on track. Yeah,
for sure.
Do you guys? So anything else within I? So we're talking about one of the things to explore in the I is resources, obstacles. By resources, what do we mean? I mean, it seems simple enough, but
so if we're taking the money, if you wanting to save money as an example, that is a definite resource, which is money, and probably along with that, time.
Yeah, well, there's a whole lot of things that can come around that, right? Like that might be a question of what is needed for you to save that money.
If because you gave a sort of vague, like, I want to save X in X amount of months, but let's just say
maybe you guys should have narrowed me down. Maybe you should have gotten your coach's hat.
Why didn't you come here with a narrowed down goal?
Let's get specific.
So let me ask you, how much do you want to save and how many months, Brooke?
Okay, so let's say, you know what? I would like to save $40,000 in 6 months.
Okay. How are you going to? How are you going to?
I like setting goals high.
How are you going to divvy up that 40,000 between the 6 months? Are you going to do it equally, or?
Well, I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Yeah. I have no clue. That's why I'm here.
Let's explore that. So, what are your options?
I mean, my options are, first, if I'm saying 6 months, I have to do some math. So I have to do what is 40,000 divided by 6, which is fun. I can try to do that in my head, but it's somewhere around.
You don't need to say $6,700 a month.
How much is it?
It's
six.
Yeah, let's just say $6,700. $6,700 roughly.
So I'm going to say roughly. I want to say, okay, we'll make it $6,700. That's fair. Which that's big chunk of change. So how am I going to come up with that big chunk of change? Well, I gotta either find a way to save, stop spending X amount of money. I've got to come up with figure out my resources that have to change for me to be able to set aside money, and also what I might have to do to generate that kind of income.
So it sounds like you're managing the resources of between how much you are
I need a
Being
spreadsheet.
frugal and saving how much more you can earn.
I always need a spreadsheet. Sam, how are you doing over there, by the way?
I'm taking this in. I'm just taking it in. I don't want to step on anybody's toes here.
So what would you like to work on, Brooke? Do you want to work on the aspects of saving money, or do you want to work on increasing the amount
I think
of
I'm
money?
going to need a spreadsheet. And what I'm saying is this session is going to have to end early because I'm going to have to go make a spreadsheet, figure some things out, and then I'll come back in.
It doesn't have to end early. So making the spreadsheet, this goes back to the goal, is a secondary goal or sub goal of that larger goal.
Yes, so making the spreadsheet is like step one in the goal of this large. So that is numero uno, is go home, make a spreadsheet, even though I am
We're getting dangerously close to the F in gifts.
Oh no, okay, so let's go to F. Let's go to F.
Before we move just completely on, I just want to say it's important to, understand those resources for the reason of focusing and thinking about the future and formulating your options to focus.
And that's what we're doing, formulating options, right? That's in that space. That's okay. So this is what I got. I got to make a spreadsheet, and now these are the ways I can possibly. My eyes watering. I'm not crying, guys. I'm not crying about my saving money. About $6,700 a month, and
I think
Sam's frozen. And
Am I frozen still?
No, you're unfrozen.
Pretty good.
All right, here we go.
So I guess what they're getting at in this article that I'm reading is once you get to the focus future part, that is, we're putting ourselves already as if the goal has already been completed. Mm-hmm. So then the question to the client would be, so what does that look like? What is having 40,000 in 6 months look like, feel like, smell like?
Yeah, so that's sort of living in that space still of the generating the goal. Then the I is okay, this is why I want to do it. And then the F is really like attaching them to that goal. What will it feel like when you have that? What does that look like? Who do you have to be that person that's done that, right? Mm-hmm. Is that sort of the space that we're in, Anthony?
Yeah, sort of just we're in that future moment. There's that future version of you who has completed that goal. Let's feel that out. Let's build that out, and then sort of attach those intentions to that.
What is the goal? Like, what is the reasoning behind doing? Because this happens a lot of times where people do these sort of like vision. Envision yourself, act as if, be the person. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be you just. So what is the importance of sort of realizing that vision boards are something you would use in this space kind of thing when you're already seeing yourself there and having attained this goal? Why do we do that as people, as coaches?
I would say because it makes it less abstract, because you can make hypothetical statements like however much you want, but if you have to say it out loud and then get into the little minutia detail and the details about it, it becomes more concrete, more achievable.
There's a reason they have you test drive a car.
Yeah.
And it also really anchors the emotional aspect to it. It comes right back to what we ask clients in the beginning. What's the significance, the emotional significance behind the goal that they have? And when they're speaking this piece out, when they're speaking that future piece out, this is where you'll really start to see just clients start to come alive, or they'll start to realize, okay, maybe this isn't as important to me as I thought it was. What is?
It becomes real, and they start to take that ownership, right? That's
right.
The reason you test drive it. They have you tested. They'll even let you take a car home overnight and drive it around for a while before you have to give it back. They'll let you do that at a dealership. Why? Because the moment you're doing that, you have taken ownership of it. It starts to be your car. It starts to. So the concept, the idea of having to pay that car payment seems much more worthwhile, because you're living the dream right then. So
that's why I don't
let me do that before.
I just go to different car dealerships every day and just get in
So that imagine that imagined space allows you to really, like, there's Juilliard, they had this article in the New York Times. I read it a long time ago. I can't tell you when. I want to say probably 10 years ago, maybe more. Anyway, they had done some research with Imagine, with coaching, that Imagine space playing, let's say, piano. They were able to play the piano piece, practicing it in their head, putting their fingers in the air, and practice that piece with imagining they're playing that tune. And they had a higher success rate with that person going to the piano and actually playing the tune rather well, like they had practiced.
Yeah, the ones who imagined did far better. Well, not far, but better enough. And the reason they ascribed they ascribed to it that happened was because when they imagine it, they imagine playing it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're playing it for real, you have mistakes and things like that happen. So you're not imagining the perfection. So imagining, literally is doing. Our brain doesn't know the difference between imagining and going through doing something and actually doing something. It's the same in our heads, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Even though our muscle memory might, I guess, it follows through. If they're playing, it must. So that's even very interesting. I wonder if they did like the hand motion while they were imagining, so that they kept the muscle memory. You would seem like you would have to.
Well, I think the brain's pretty incredible. I think you could even have it without doing that, right? Because you can imagine if you just sit there. Right now I'm imagining my fingers even doing this. Right?
I'm thinking but my muscles would start to atrophy. But if not very long. Okay, so now we were talking about the future, the imagining, the being in it, and also, but Sam brought up a good point too. It also might reveal that they're not that attached, right?
Yeah.
That maybe they don't like the car that they're driving. That this is not what I wanted. It's too big. It's like a boat. I don't like it. So it's the exploration may not be always that they're going to get attached. It might provide clarification for where they need to redirect as well. And that's kind of where that focus on a plan comes in, right?
Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't buy a Ford Focus in 2017.
Why? Why?
Because it didn't feel. It felt like a Fisher Price car. It was too small. It felt strange. I didn't like it, and I thought I wanted a Ford Focus until that moment. And I imagined myself driving this. I'm like, I can't even take myself seriously. No shade to anyone who drives it.
My first car was like a Barbie car. It really was. Like, I swear to God, the thing was like a Barbie car. It was a two-door RAV4 that was convertible. It went down the back, and it was literally like one of those little Jeeps that you see kids driving around. That's what it felt like driving. I love that thing. So any more in the F space before we move on to LT? I don't know why LT is Spanish all of a sudden. The T is a fun one though, right? I like the T.
Yeah. I think we could probably maybe speak a little bit more about focusing and maybe how are some ways that
plans are for chumps.
What you talking about? You wing it.
How are some ways we can assist our clients in focusing on that plan and maybe developing a plan?
That might be part of the transition, the T, which is transition.
Or take action. It's also take action.
Take action. What article were you even looking at here?
So well, I'm looking at the Hive. So the within the F though, and that focusing on a plan. Do you think it's always easy to come up with a plan, or do you think it's always hard? Do you think that what are the pitfalls of planning?
Okay. A couple of different ways to answer this question. The pitfall in the plan is the potential to become rigid in that plan because it doesn't look exactly like you planned it in your session. You have to have an eye and a heart for adaptability in any plan. Doesn't mean you totally throw the plan out the window. You might have to if necessary, but just know that some X factors are going to come up that you can't plan for. So you got to know how to adjust at that point.
I just took a disruptive strategy class, and in that they talk about how you can, no matter what, you can go in with your intended strategy. So you have your intentional strategy, but the meat and potatoes is always in the adaptive strategy. It's always because it's never going to go as intended. It's never, because there's so many things that are out of our control, and so what do you do with that? That kind of, is that as important as the planning for when things don't go right?
Planning for when things don't go right.
Planning for when they don't go according to plan. Like, how do you help somebody be more adaptable?
That's a fantastic question.
Asking them maybe in that space of, if these pitfalls do show up, how would you feel about them? Are there any ways that you could maybe adjust in this space? I think questions like that, to potentially have them flesh out some plan Bs and plan Cs, maybe, if they do kind of come to that crossroads when they are trying to reach that goal.
I think this is a good space where creative thinking, like colorful thinking hats, might come into play, sort of in this kind of space where, imagine try to view it from a different point of view or different perspective, or you've got your plan. This is how you would make your plan. How would somebody else make the same plan? What would be different? Or the what ifs game might help in this. Or any thoughts as well?
I have a really weird analogy that has to do with punching, and I can't put it into words right now. Like, I'm not condoning physical violence. I'm just trying to find the right way to put this right now. So.
No, let's talk punching. I like punching.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the fly while he's thinking. I've been on a fly kick these days. It's, what is the fly noticing that isn't being noticed?
That's a great one.
How do we know the fly is noticing anything?
I have some philosophical things to say about that, but not going to get into that. It's more so if you were it's like asking, if you were somebody else, what would they notice that you couldn't notice? Which is a difficult question to ask.
Think of somebody that is not at all like you, that you think is nobody, that does things the way you would never ever do things. Think of this person. How would they approach this problem? But it might get you thinking in a different headspace. I mean,
they wouldn't, because they're scum and they can't set their own goals. They don't have the drive like I do.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's kind of following up on your
Anthony's high of himself now, don't we?
Yeah, this got dark real fast.
See, your punching analogy would have been great, Sam.
See, I think the only punching analogy I can really come up with at this point is imagining the end goal as if you're coming to the end of a fight. The intention of the fight is to win the fight. You can say, like, all right, again, this is not fully fleshed out, so if this does not sound like it makes sense, bear with me. Your action plan that we've talked about, that's you practicing in the MMA gym, in the boxing gym, What's the one thing that a punching bag can't do?
Be a person.
It can't hit you back.
Yeah.
So you're practicing ducking with a thing that can't punch you.
And you can fight other people, but you're not fighting the person. Yeah. That you're going to fight.
And what happens when you're ducking, you still get hit.
So you can plan as much as you can plan, but it might be, it's going to be different in the ring. It's just going to be different in the ring.
Everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Boom.
I was about to say that.
Right? And then you see stars. Goodbye.
Well, I think this is a perfect transition onto transition. That's the next.
That's a good transition.
Yeah. Not transition. It's also take action and make the transition, which is an interesting choice of words, because we think of I don't think everybody thinks of starting a goal as a transition, but it is. You will have to make changes in your life. and you will have to change to be a different person, to be a person capable of reaching this goal that you were not previously capable of doing. So there is a degree of transition that happens there. And I think that that's a very interesting choice of words. And I kind of like it because it kind of gets me prepared for the change element. Whereas a lot of times I don't feel like that happens. I don't think of it that way. I just think of, okay, now I got to start doing things. But I don't think of me, the person, having to make a transition and a change, right? I just think I've got to do things. But that doesn't, in my head, connect the idea of change and transitioning my behavior or my lifestyle. Thoughts?
I don't.
I'm thinking about what you're saying there in that transition.
I don't know if I quite follow that line of
You don't?
reasoning or I don't know if I buy into it, because if you do things enough times, whether you want to or not, you're going to change.
Yes, but
Even
you
if
have
even if you don't frame it in that way for yourself.
Oh, I'm
you're
just saying
gonna
for me,
find-
I like that. That works for me, is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to work for you.
And a lot of times people who are going after any kind of goal, big or small, they're focused on that tangible goal that's right in front of them. And most times they're not focused on that internal transition. That's just going to naturally happen. So it's kind of a side
But
effect.
Also, though,
It's the best way I can
sometimes
put
it
that.
doesn't, though. That's the thing. Sometimes, and this is why so many goals fail, is because that internal transition doesn't happen. They're just doing the do. Mind you, doing the do can get us there. We can fake it till we make it, but it's not till we actually commit to that internal change that it's really set in stone. I think that's when that moment when it's like, oh my God, I'm doing this. I got this. We all have that. I'm in the pocket, that like we've been fighting it and then you feel it. That moment doesn't come without some internal change work.
Right.
But
at a bare minimum, it's a letting go also. At a bare minimum, you got to let go who you are and what you think right here, right now, so something else can come up within.
Because there's a reason you haven't reached, there's a reason you've got a coach. It's because you feel stuck. You feel all these things. So I think that transition again, I'm being a dictator. You guys.
Isn't that kernel of transition already there in the client, though? Because they had to do something. Some inciting moment happened where they hired you. Yeah. They were at a point
They're already taking a step.
Yeah, they've already taken the step. So now it's just like, I think it's going back and investigating what caused you to want to get a coach.
We don't go backwards. We don't go back.
Careful.
We don't go back.
Isn't that part of the intention? Okay, we go back to intent, the I in it.
Yes, that's the emotional relevance. So it's attaching it to the goal. But we already know why they're there, right? So
we assume that. But do we know that for sure?
The fine line, right? That's the why. Okay, clients hire us typically because they're in a state that is, they want change, right? They want forward movement. They feel stagnant. Something's gone on. There's been a big disruption in their life, and it's set them into motion. They want the help of a coach.
Yes.
What's the difference between finding out why it is that they hired you and setting emotional relevance of a goal?
Is there another way we can put that question?
I don't know if there is a difference, really.
Because I think there's a huge difference, and that's why I'm asking this, because I think it's important.
I think it's finding their attachment to that goal.
Yeah.
I think that they may not hire you. The reasons, the whys, right? We always find this out. There's deeper. That's what going deeper is, right?
Yeah.
So the reason they may have hired you may not always line with what the verbalized goal is, essentially, right?
I think more often than not, that's the case, which I would agree. I think they're completely different. Defining that goal through, getting past some of those initial assumptions as far as what goal you want to set, again, through the help of your coach by asking questions and digging deeper. Once that actual goal is defined for you, then attaching that emotional relevance, I think, that has to happen.
It goes back to our F. I think, like, it's the difference being, you hired me because this is happening in my life and I don't like it. I'd like to change it or what have you. when we're talking about the imagine if, that who would you be, that future self, that you have achieved this goal and you've got it, and what does that feel like?
Yep.
What does that look like? Who is this person? That is future focused all the way, right? That is attaching emotional relevance to how they'll feel about what they have achieved, what they have accomplished when they've gotten this and set this goal. It's not digging into the how life has been crappy for the last 3 years and I've not been able to achieve any goals and I hate myself.
Dang.
It's going into, it's not true, but it's going into like what is the future, what does that future person feel like, who is that? And that's what attaching that emotional relevance is that going, I'll be free when I do this, I will be, I'll be fulfilled, I'll be living my purpose. And that's that getting to that pith, and attaching it to the do portion, that the like the grind. That's what'll get them through, is they have that emotional attachment to that. This is what I'm going to be if I suffer through this right now, kind of thing.
I could be completely wrong, but I think the transition might be the easiest part in all of this, because it is the gift, and gifts is that's what you're coming for, is that transition. But
it kind of happens.
Know how to get to that transition. So if you fulfill, creating that goal, focusing on intent, and then developing a plan, it should come together rather easily for you to go ahead and transition.
It will happen naturally, kind of like everybody said, I think. But yeah. Yes, Sam.
I think, as with all things, here comes the magic answer. It depends on how attached they are to who they are right now. Because in a moment of crisis, or a moment where they decide they can hire a coach, they may want to very desperately to change. And then once that red alert goes down, it's like, I've been so comfortable as this the whole time. Now there's this question of, do I really want to let this go? And is this goal really worth it to me? I guess as coaches, we're going to explore the emotional relevance of a goal anyway. Yeah. But sometimes there is that fight between letting go of the current self because it's comfortable.
So I have a question there. I have a question in that space.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client, they hired me in that emotionally charged that I'm changing moment. And then of course, complacency settles in, and now I'm sitting in front of you and I'm like, I don't know. What do you do with that client? Like, when is too far? Do you accept that your client is happy complacent? Do you get them to be emotionally attached to their complacency? And find fulfillment in being complacent. What do you do?
Going back to the future focus piece, we don't have to ask them how has this been working for them for the last 3 years. It's just ask them, next week, if we stay in this place, what happens next? Because we can see from our objective viewpoint that they're comfortable in their complacency, for lack of better terms. But if we try to push them out of it in the name of getting them to their place that they say they want to get to, there's going to be that resistance. So if you help them bring awareness to the fact that if they stay where they're at, they're going to keep on getting the same things over and over and over again, that's what's going to catalyze their first steps for change. At least that's what I've seen.
Or not. And if it's not, then we have to accept that it's not, right? Like if they get, the same thing's going to happen again and again, but I've just decided I'm okay with that. Let's switch topics now.
Right. Don't force your client out of a place. Don't do it. I've done it. It hasn't worked. Bad. Don't do it. Accept them where they are. Thank you, Brooke.
It's making a judgment call, right? Because at that point, we're judging. We're telling them that they need to move themselves out of a space that they don't want to, and that's not for us to say.
Well, it could be that they need to accept this. Not that they have to, but if they're, I'm thinking of some clients that
All of us went.
Should I keep talking? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, that was weird. The idea of, I want to change this X, but I'm unwilling to adapt Any other concepts?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, getting that feedback, and I'm not sure if I should continue speaking.
Oh, I don't hear it. No, I don't hear it.
I hear a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we're good to go.
So I'll keep trying, and if it keeps feeding back, I'm going to stop talking. So the idea is to explore through that experience. They said they wanted to make changes with, but they're unwilling to make the changes. So they came to terms with, we're not at this time, we're not willing to make these changes. Here's what we want to do different. So they could find what their alternative is in that moment, as opposed to making the change that they thought they wanted to make.
And that's,
abstract. I know I'm being
they
abstract.
they guided that though. They said, okay, we're not doing that right now. So instead, we'd like to figure out how we're going to live with misery for the next 6 months.
No, they weren't living in misery, but the idea
That's the real
was,
reason you
how did
hired
they
me.
make what they decided to move towards be quality versus quantity. as
Well,
it
and
were.
that's it becomes a compromise situation at that point, and it becomes a sort of maybe a more realistic situation where you come in idealistic. I think that I want all of this, and especially in couples coaching, I imagine, and then I want all of this, and then you find some happiness in the middle ground, and neither is getting 100% of what they want, but they find a compromise.
Yeah. Generally, yeah, that's it.
Being adults.
I feel like this is a really good space to kind of mention you shouldn't be working harder than your client. It's not your space to make those judgment calls. Ask them again, and make sure that they're doing what they feel is right for themselves in that moment.
How can I work harder than my client? I mean, if
Trying.
we just have a 1 hour session and they're gone out the door, how am I working hard? Can I work harder than that?
Trying to
No.
develop goals for
Thinking
them.
about them outside of their paid time.
Well, I don't know how much they're
That-
thinking about their goals. Maybe they're thinking about them more than me.
asking so many leading questions because you want to force them to a breakthrough.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
that's
you saw.
yes.
You saw a coaching session where somebody was crying. It's like, oh, I got to make my clients cry all the time, and then
my client's not shedding tears. We are not successful.
you're not getting out of the session until I see some kind of water in your eyes.
Just as a cheer jar, just
I
ready
bring
to
pepper
go.
spray
There's a
with me
cat.
to ensure the cry happens.
That's what I carry an onion in my pocket.
No,
and
a pepper spray,
wave it
exactly.
around, yeah.
Problem solved. Always leave crying.
The price of the goes up if I
Oh
make
my
you cry.
So we got to move forward because we're running out of time.
Yes, the most important one.
The S, success and self-acknowledgement. Let's talk. Sure. What does that mean, guys?
To me, that means after you've achieved what you've reached out or what you've intended to go ahead and achieve, be sure to celebrate. To me, acknowledge that wasn't easy. Acknowledge that you may be a different person in this space now. But acknowledge you did what you wanted to do, which I think is really fulfilling for somebody to actually internalize and understand.
What's interesting is we as human beings, we not only do we lack self-empathy, and not only do we also underestimate the difficulty of tasks before we do them, especially if we've never done them. We assume that they're going to be easier than they really are. But we also forget how difficult things were to do. So I think it's a really good point to take that moment and acknowledge the level of work, the hard work it was getting there, but then also acknowledge that you got there, and that if you can do that much work and you make it through that, that's awesome. I make a note of it, like literally write down, this is I did this, and this is how I did it, so that you can remember for the next time, which might make you never want to do it again. Who knows? But
I think a good way to
again.
put it metaphorically would be that's that block, and if you acknowledge that, you can tell yourself, hey, let's keep stacking, let's keep building. So I think it's really important.
Can you stack blocks forever as high as you want, or do they always
I'm
topple
sure you
over?
can try. I'm sure you can try.
Tried
let's,
the
Oh,
Tower
no.
of
let's try it.
Babel,
Let's see if
didn't
we
work.
can. Let's break some Guinness records, shall we? And then somebody can come through and remove them.
The question is, why do you want to? Do you want to keep building blocks as high as you can? Is it like,
Maybe.
what's up?
Only if there's a Guinness Book of World Records thing attached. That's all.
I
What
will
else?
take knowledge Sue.
Yes.
While
Hi,
we're
Sue.
here.
The best part of coaching is watching
Yes.
client get excited for their progress as well as learn to give themselves grace. Yes, that
Oh,
grace part is
absolutely.
huge. Yeah.
One of my favorite words, grace.
Celebrating. How do you guys celebrate your successes?
With a lot of coffee.
Food. Good food.
Food and
Quiet
coffee.
introspection, and then immediately putting it under the rug and moving on to my next goal.
That's how you celebrate? That's your choice of
Yeah,
celebration?
that's my celebration right there.
We found the block stacker, y'all.
I think
Maybe
the
a drink or
celebrate.
two.
I think the celebrate can really be hard for us.
Mhm.
You know, when we tend to be not providing ourselves that grace, as we were speaking about, we're hard on ourselves. I'm thinking of the times, even recently, where I was able to do something and I didn't spend the time doing the happy dance, and I should have spent the time doing the happy dance. It, just got inundated and did life again. Versus, I really did do that, and I really did get to the other side, and I can add different language in this space, but I didn't do that.
Mhm.
So
There's
can
usually
you can you do it now?
The happy dance, Lisa. We want you to do everything.
there we go. And there's usually something that's
That's all.
stopping us.
Let's celebrate, shall we?
Yeah. There's usually something that's stopping us from giving ourselves that permission to do it.
Mhm.
And part of that celebration is all about being courageous enough to give ourselves that permission to just
I'm putting you all
do
on the
the
spot
happy
here,
dance.
and I'm doing this. I'm doing this right now. Every
Go ahead.
one of you, think of something that you have successfully accomplished. Think of something you are deep down, you are proud of yourself for having done. That you should be proud that you accomplished this, whatever it may be, X, Y, or Z. And then I'd like for you to share that with us and celebrate. We will celebrate with you. Anybody?
I wouldn't say it's anything that I can really define very specifically, but this kind of just makes me think of like smelling the flowers.
Yeah, no, but I want specifics, Jerome.
Okay.
Be specific.
We get wrapped up kind of in our day-to-day lives, and we forget to look back. And me looking back, I am very proud of the fact that I think I've become much more mindful over the last handful of years. And I hadn't realized that until, I look back on some of the things that I would say, or somebody would say something that I said back 5 years ago, and I would tell myself, that's not me. I wouldn't say that. But now,
Give me a specific example
well, I can't think of one.
of something now, a mindfulness moment now.
Just those around you. I think just being kind to those around you, and maybe not even necessarily kind, just understanding that they're dealing with a bunch of different things, different than you can really understand. And I don't think that's what being mindful is actually understanding what they're doing or trying to understand what they're doing. I just mean be mindful of the fact that they're human, I think is kind of where I'm going with. And I'm not saying I was I'm not saying I was a horrible human being or anything like that. What I am saying is I think what Lisa with her favorite word, I think I give people more grace when I am around them.
Can you think of one instance in which you gave grace to somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to do it all the time. So
But think of one. Just think of one, and let's celebrate it with you.
okay. I give grace to my sister every time I see her. Every time I see her.
I saw him even get emotional on that one.
Yeah,
Didn't you, guys?
but that's the importance of being specific.
Yeah.
So,
Celebrate.
and Anthony,
Well,
Go.
Man, you're really putting me on the spot for this one.
Okay, then we can go to Sam while you think about it.
No. You said think about it. Hold up a minute. I ain't ready for this yet.
Lisa got one. Lisa has one. Lisa said she just thought of one.
Okay, go, Lisa.
Lisa.
Well, I'm trying to think of how I want to say it. So I paid off a debt, and now I own it. And I worked hard to own it. And I've never really said some of those words. People said, well, you should be proud. And I'm like, yeah, I'm proud. Yeah, of course I am. But now I'm starting to get emotional.
Yeah.
It's a different place to put yourself in and really feel that experience and let it be that happy dance moment,
So, I want to see you happy dance and say I own it.
Happy dance and say I own it. I'm do it on here.
Happy dance and say I own it.
No.
Oh man.
I'm a happy dancer and I own it.
All right, Sam.
Oh man. Okay, so just over the last 5.5 years, just the courage to jump in different areas, vocationally, personally, in my life. Like the biggest one that pops to mind right now is moving to Texas in 2016. I did that with, I'm not going to disclose just how broke I was when I did that. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm rolling in cash. All I'm saying here is back then, if I got robbed, it would be a practice run for the robber because he wouldn't have got much out of me. But nonetheless, just that courage to say, I am going to go ahead and build my own coaching business 5 years ago. There were a lot of punches in the mouths that happened, but it all started with that first step and everything that's come from that. Again, vocationally, personally, I have to say I'm proud of myself for that. And I haven't given myself the space to say that often just because I never really thought about it. But as I think about it, it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Congratulations.
You.
Proud of you. Now give yourself a pat on the back and say, I did it. I started my own coaching practice. I'm awesome.
What if I can't reach my back? Like I can't.
Then you don't get to celebrate.
You don't get to celebrate.
Okay, Mr. Negative Nancy over here.
No. Seriously, do your happy dance. Let's do your happy dance. Where's your happy dance at?
That is my happy dance is sitting in peace and doing this.
Oh my god.
It felt really good.
I think I probably have the least amount to say on this, but I probably have the best happy dance.
I just quickly want to acknowledge Michael Baker and say congratulations.
Yes.
We're celebrating
Congrats
with you.
to
That's
everyone
awesome.
in the chat.
And now, Anthony, what are you
So,
You're not getting off, Brooke. It's your turn
I know.
next.
yeah,
Why
so
would we do this?
I don't know if I have anything
Thanks, Sue.
recent that I accomplished per se, but it's more so I've been in a slump for a while and I've neglected my personal development. But now I've started and gotten over the hump of working out, going to the gym, of reading books that are for my own education and growth. And I've been keeping at it. So celebrating this sort of steady, progress that I've been making. In my mind, I don't think there's ever going to be an end to that. But I'm, happy with where I'm at. We're like, oh, I'm actually sticking to something for a while now and I'm enjoying it. And even though there's ups and downs and sometimes it sucks, I'm still doing it because it's good for me. So there's my accomplishment. I'm doing something, even though it doesn't feel good all the time, it feels good most of the time. So I'm still going to do it.
Good. Very good.
I'm
celebrating with you. Happy dance. There we go.
You call that the Carlton?
Yeah. That's my happy dance.
I love it.
Brooke, go.
Well, I have a lot I could celebrate. I'll think back to who I was. I mean, much like Sam, I came to this town with a backpack and about nothing else. And I now am in ways I never thought possible. I'm completely and totally independent, self-supporting, stable. I'm not scared about life, and I don't feel like the floor might drop out from underneath me at any given moment. I actually feel I feel kind of, I guess, solid in many ways, and that's a big reason to celebrate for me. So that is awesome, because there were people in my life that told me repeatedly I could never do it, and I was, the things that, and it's like, screw you, boy, did I prove you wrong. So and that's fantastic. It makes me happy.
Now do the dance.
Yep.
Do the dance, like, yeah.
Do it.
I just stand up for my dances. Like,
I've got a better one. Yeah, I just don't want to break
like
anything.
bouncing and jumping.
Yeah.
But congratulations, everybody.
Not looking to break anything.
Congratulations. You all are honors and blessings. Thank you.
So, but isn't that weird how awkward we feel when we're doing that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a difficult
It
aspect.
feels very awkward.
We shouldn't, though. We should cut that the F out and just be proud of ourselves and be like, you know what, I did that, and I'm gonna tell somebody I did it, and I'm gonna celebrate a little, damn it.
But seeing how hard that was for us, and knowing, we're not coaching each other right now, but asking that of a client, they might, have never done that before. And that might be really hard for them to do. So I'm wondering how you encourage them to, it'd probably happen after a few sessions, but how do you even encourage somebody to get to that point?
Just give them permission.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. I think deep down, everybody kind of wants to a little bit admit it to somebody.
Yeah.
I think once you've also, go ahead, Lisa.
I think really it's not about anyone outside's permission. It's all about an internal permission. Really. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to listen, really listen. What do you want to share in this moment? And that success that you just quietly described.
Could you ask, how did you feel?
Yeah.
How does that feel? How did that feel? How does it feel
that
now?
ties right into the permission, not the permission, excuse me. That ties into the safe space that we automatically create as coaches, provided we're doing what we're supposed to do. Because most of our clients go through an entire day, heck, an entire week, not knowing if they're safe enough to say certain things, express certain things because of fear of judgment. But in that hour they're with us, they have that permission automatically. They have that space right there to just be who they are.
I think, as I'm sitting here thinking about it too, I go through life and we get wrapped up in the things we don't have, the things we want, the things that we haven't gotten yet, the places we aren't at the moment, and stopping to take a moment to look at what we have done, what we have accomplished, what we have. What is going right is really, it's switching from that negative brain bias, that negative thought process to, no, this is what I've done. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I should be happy and proud about. And why am I not carrying that with me as solidly as I'm carrying all this negativity, this which drives us, right? In many ways, it can knock us down, but it can also drive us to change and do more, right? But it's that Jerome's mindful, that comes with being happy with the moment, with what we have, with what we've done, and celebrating that fulfillment. That without that, I mean, really, what's the point?
Well, yeah. I mean, isn't life all about celebrating? I mean, essentially, it's to be happy, right? And you've got to celebrate moments that do make you happy.
I don't know. My life's about being miserable.
There you go. It could be that as well. That's
So I heard you say you like being miserable, Brooke.
So I've been far too happy, and I'm not happy about it.
Why not?
That sounds like something that like Morticia Adams would say, just to like
And she's cutting off the rose head.
yeah.
I think that about wraps up our time, guys. So gifts. This is the gift of gift coaching. The G stands for
Go.
guys,
Goal.
the I,
Intention.
the F,
Focus
And
future.
T.
Transition.
And last but not least, celebrate. No, the success. Right?
Success. which is-
S.
So, and you can do all these things along the way too, right? Like, there's many versions of this, as with the goal setting.
Mhm.
You don't want it to just be one big. You want to break it down to mini gifts. Give mini gifts to get the big gift. All right, that's all for me, guys. Anybody else?
It's Christmas time. Give
Let's get
people
that
gifts.
graphic up. Let's
Yeah,
get
Merry
that
Christmas. It's also Giving
Happy
Tuesday.
holidays.
It's Giving Tuesday, by the way.
Yes, I can't
So
believe
all
I
of you
didn't
who
mention
spent-
that.
Those of you who did not spend your last penny on Cyber Monday and Black Friday, go ahead and do some giving today on Giving Tuesday. So,
Gifting Tuesday.
and
Sweet.
for anybody watching this madness here, happy holidays. And also on top of that, to check out Certified Life Coach Institute. We certify coaches in 3 days, and we love what we do. And we'd like to give you the gift of certification. Also comment, please. Comment.
Yep.
Share, like. We want to hear from you. We do check your comments, and we would love to know if you have any questions. If you have any topics, anything you want us to cover, please put them in the comments, and we will happily do so. That's all.
Thank
Auf Wiedersehen.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you for watching.